Hello, everyone, and welcome. Before we dive into this extraordinary tale, tell us in the comments where you're watching from. We love hearing from our global family. Today, we delve into a story that gripped a nation, a courtroom drama far beyond its four walls. It's a story of justice, but also of profound human connection, of past shadows, and a reckoning so powerful it brought a seemingly unshakable man to his knees. This isn't just a legal case. It's a mirror reflecting our own capacity for judgment, forgiveness, and the enduring echoes of decisions made long ago. Prepare yourself, because this story will stay with you long after the final word. In the bustling heart of a major American city, where skyscrapers pierced the clouds and opportunity seemed boundless, there was a stark reality for many living on the fringes. Our story begins in the hallowed, often unforgiving halls of justice, presided over by Judge Arthur Vance. Judge Vance was, by all accounts, a titan of the legal world. Sharp, incisive, and known for his unwavering adherence to the letter of the law, he was a man who had built his career on an almost surgical precision of judgment. His chambers were plush, his suits custom-tailored, and his life a testament to hard work and privilege. He lived in an exclusive neighborhood, his days filled with golf and galas when not dispensing justice from his elevated bench. He was respected, perhaps even feared, but rarely challenged. He saw the world in black and white, right and wrong, and applied the law with a methodical, almost detached efficiency. One crisp autumn morning, a new case landed on his docket. It involved a woman, a mother, accused of petty theft, shoplifting groceries. A minor offense, perhaps, but one that Judge Vance viewed with his usual sternness. The woman, Sarah Jenkins, was brought before him. Her appearance spoke volumes. Thin, hunched, her clothes worn, her eyes etched with a weariness that went beyond mere fatigue. Her hair, once perhaps vibrant, was dull and streaked with gray, pulled back haphazardly. She clutched a threadbare purse, her knuckles white. The prosecutor laid out the facts. Sarah had been caught taking bread, milk, and a small box of cereal from a convenience store. No violence, no resistance, just a quiet, desperate act. When questioned, she offered no grand excuse, only a whisper about hungry children. Judge Vance listened, his expression unchanging. He'd heard it all before, pleas of poverty, desperation, extenuating circumstances. To him, the law was blind to such sentiments. It was a framework, a societal compact, and if one broke it, there were consequences. His gaze, usually piercing, seemed to skim over Sarah, seeing not a person, but merely a defendant in a long line of them. He had a schedule to keep, a docket to clear. When it was her turn to speak, Sarah's voice was barely audible. She explained, haltingly, that she had lost her job months ago, that her husband had left, and that her two young children hadn't eaten properly in days. She had exhausted all other avenues. Shelters were full, food banks far away, and pride had prevented her from begging. This was a last resort, a desperate gamble against starvation. Judge Vance sighed, a barely perceptible exhalation. Miss Jenkins, he stated, his voice clear and resonant, devoid of emotion. The law is clear. Theft, regardless of the perceived justification, is a crime. Our society cannot function if individuals choose to disregard the rules due to personal hardship. While I sympathize with your situation, and here, his voice dipped just slightly, a momentary concession before returning to its usual timbre, the court must uphold the law. He looked down at his notes, then back up at Sarah. Given the circumstances, and as a first-time offense of this nature, I am sentencing you to 2 weeks in county jail, followed by 6 months of probation. This should serve as a deterrent and a reminder that there are proper channels for assistance. The words hung heavy in the air. 2 weeks. For bread and milk. Sarah's face crumpled. A small, choked sob escaped her. The guards moved in, their hands gently, but firmly, taking her arms. As she was led away, her gaze, filled with a raw, agonizing despair, briefly met Judge Vance's. For a fleeting second, something flickered in his eyes, a shadow, quickly suppressed. The courtroom returned to its usual hum, and the next case was called. For Judge Vance, it was just another day, another sentence delivered, another statistic in the relentless machinery of justice. Or so he thought. Panic, raw and unadulterated, seized Judge Vance. His mind raced, replaying every moment of the courtroom scene. Her eyes, her plea, her quiet desperation. He had seen it, but not truly seen her. He had been so blind, so caught up in the rigid dogma of the law, that he had failed to see the human being standing before him, let alone the ghosts of his own past. He immediately called his clerk, his voice uncharacteristically strained, demanding details about Sarah Jenkins. He learned she had been transferred to the county facility just hours ago. He canceled all his appointments for the rest of the day. His staff were bewildered. Judge Vance was never anything but meticulously punctual and professional. He drove to the county jail himself, the journey a blur of regret and self-recrimination. He bypassed the usual protocols, pulling rank, overriding every objection from the surprise jail staff. He had to see her, to understand, to somehow, impossibly undo what he had done. He was led to a small, stark visitation room. Sarah was brought in, looking even more fragile in the harsh fluorescent lighting. When she saw him, her eyes widened in a mixture of shock and confusion. She recognized him, not as Arthur, but as the judge who had condemned her. Fear flickered in her gaze. Judge Vance sat down opposite her, the metal table between them feeling like an insurmountable chasm. He cleared his throat, his usual authoritative voice now thick with emotion. "Emily," he began, the name feeling foreign on his tongue after so many years. It's Arthur." Sarah stared at him, disbelief slowly replacing fear. "Arthur? No, it can't be," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "It is," he said, his voice cracking. I didn't recognize you. I am so profoundly sorry, Emily. I had no idea." Tears welled in his eyes, openly, unashamedly. The formidable Judge Vance, known for his stoicism, was weeping. Sarah watched him, her own eyes misting over. The years of hardship, the pain of her present situation, and the shock of this reunion washed over her. He told her how he had found the old photo, how the realization had hit him. He listened as she recounted the intervening years, her aspirations, a marriage that ended in tragedy, illness, the slow, agonizing descent into poverty, the struggle to feed her children. It wasn't a plea for sympathy, but a raw, honest account of a life derailed, a life he had once been a part of, now so far removed from his own gilded existence. He learned about her children, alone now, reliant on a neighbor for a few days before they would be taken into temporary care. The thought of Emily's children, his Emily's children, suffering because of his detached judgment, was unbearable. "I made a mistake, Emily," he confessed, his voice choked. "A terrible, unforgivable mistake. I looked at the law, but I didn't see the life. I didn't see you." He didn't make excuses. He didn't try to justify his actions. He simply admitted his failure, his blindness, his hubris. He spent hours with her, not as a judge and defendant, but as two people bound by a shared past, now confronting a devastating present. He listened, truly listened, to the story of her unraveling, the systemic failures that had led her to that convenience store, to that desperate act. He saw her not as a criminal, but as a victim of circumstance, a mother driven to the brink. By the time he left the jail, a plan was forming in his mind, not of legal maneuvers, but of human restitution. He immediately called his most trusted colleagues, discreetly pulling strings, leveraging his considerable influence. The wheels of bureaucracy, usually slow and grinding, began to turn with uncharacteristic speed. He arranged for her immediate release on compassionate grounds, citing a procedural error in her initial assessment, a subtle bending of the rules he would have once scoffed at. He secured temporary housing for her and her children, and through his network, found her a part-time job that would allow her to care for them. He personally guaranteed her probation, ensuring she would receive support, not just surveillance. It wasn't about erasing her past. It was about building a future. It wasn't about excusing the crime. It was about understanding the human behind it. The judge who had walked into that jail was a different man from the one who walked out. The encounter had shattered his rigid worldview, revealing the stark contrast between justice in theory and justice in practice, between law and compassion. He realized that true justice wasn't just about applying rules, but about understanding the human condition, about empathy, about the profound impact of one's decisions. His legal career continued, but with a newfound perspective. He became a quieter judge, perhaps, but a more profound one. He began to look beyond the cold facts, to seek out the nuances, the stories, the human element behind every case. His judgments became tempered with a wisdom that only personal experience and profound regret could impart. He would never forget the lesson Emily, the homeless mother, had unknowingly taught him. Sarah and her children slowly began to rebuild their lives. It wasn't a sudden fix, but a slow, arduous climb, supported by the unexpected hand offered by the man who had once sentenced her. Their paths, once cruelly intertwined by a legal system, now found a new, more hopeful connection, forged in the crucible of a judge's reckoning and a mother's silent plea. And in that unforeseen reunion, a rich judge found not just a lost love, but a lost piece of his own humanity. This story reminds us that life often brings us full circle, sometimes in the most unexpected and challenging ways. It's a testament to the fact that even those in positions of power are not immune to the profound lessons life has to offer, and that true compassion often arises from the ashes of our deepest regrets. What are your thoughts on Judge Vance's journey? Let us know in the comments below. And if this story moved you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Thank you for watching.